If you've ever seen an organization moving in exquisitely productive, passion-driven purpose, you have witnessed an organization that knows how to interview and find rock stars. With over a decade of experience in human resources, Andrew Lee is focused on how to develop talent and educate hiring managers on what it takes to lead. His expertise explores personal and professional development. He is a native of Charlotte and attended South Mecklenburg High School and graduated from Old Dominion University. Andrew lives in Charlotte with his wife Tiffany and their twin daughters Elizabeth and Isabel. Let us join the Director of Operations Glenn Daniels and TEDx speaker Andrew Lee today on Essential Skills of Leadership, a discussion with TEDx speakers.
This is a Touchstone Publishers presentation, your trusted source of leadership knowledge.
All righty. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Glenn Daniels here with our guest today, Andrew Lee. Now, Andrew, if you look at him, he's all chipper and powerful, but I know a secret we discovered in our pre-talk. He's got twin three-year-olds that he had to get off to school this morning. You got to look at him and say, how do you have that energy after those? I know I have a 3-year-old grandson and he wears you out, and I can just imagine two twins saying, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. So,
and that's right. And we've got one more on the way. So
oh no.
August 6th, we'll the third girl will join the family. So we're very excited, and it'll take a lot of coffee to keep us going.
Yeah, but now you have 4 girls working against you. No, I'm just kidding.
It's just me and the dog. The only guys now, it's me and the dog.
Yeah, and you don't have much say either way. So that's the way it goes, whether they're boys or girls. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us. I found your TEDx talk right up the alley of what we're trying to do with our leaders here. But also I realize that it's going to help a lot of people prepare themselves for becoming that rock star that somebody wants to use. So even if you're not a leader, or you want to be a leader, or you want to work for a great company, your TEDx talk is where it should go. Now, the question I want to ask you, though, before we start diving into your TEDx talk, is a simple question. I believe it should be simple. Tell us what is unique, powerful, people should know about your organization. What is unique and powerful that people should know about either your organization, your TED Talk itself, or you?
That's a good question, Glenn. I'll say let's go with the TEDx talk specifically. Actually, no. I'll start with me first. I myself, like everyone listening, is a product of bad management. I mean, we can probably list on scrolls miles long the bad managers we've come in contact with. And what I think is missed in books about leadership or speeches about leadership is what that management does to the person. What does it do to you when you get home? How does it affect your interaction with your children, with your spouse, with your significant other, with others in the household? And I think we miss that. So, people said, hey, you gave a TED talk about how to hire people. Yeah, it is about that, but it's more than that. And what I want people to take away from the TED talk is that hiring is really important. And it not only affects what goes on in the business, but it affects also what goes on at home.
I noticed that in the talk, and I thought that was very, very unique how you kind of tied that all together. When we're talking about hiring the right people, we're talking about reducing stress.
Right.
That's what we're kind of talking about. So tell us a little bit about your journey to the TEDx. I mean, how did that take place? I mean, when I say your journey, I'm referring to maybe from the time, it doesn't matter, but maybe from the time that you conceived the thought that you wanted to do it to the day you stepped on the stage. Or maybe it's something else, but tell us about the journey that you personally had to get to that TEDx.
I'll be honest with you. Speaking about the bad manager portion, it was the afternoon. It was probably a winter afternoon, and I was working for a company where leadership was really just, not good. The morale of the place wasn't great. There were 2 leaders there, and they just did not know how to lead effectively. It was a poisonous environment, frankly. And I was brought into a meeting, and I gave my resignation. I said, you know what? I don't want to be here. This is not who I am, not who I want to be, not the environment I want to be in. So if I look at the origin of the TED Talk, it was me finally being fed up with poor managers, poor leaders. That's where it started. And because I started looking at the effects that it had on me, and I had just started dating my wife now, but we had just started dating, and I didn't like that. She always said, you seem not in a good mood when when she would see me.
Yeah.
So that's really where it started. And I wanted to talk about how I started to think about, how can I get a message out? How can I educate people about how important it is to hire and what those effects were? And I started thinking, what methods could I use to do this? Should I start a podcast? Should I just get on a soapbox in the middle of the street and start talking? And I saw TEDx, because we would always go to TEDx every year when they came to Charlotte. I said, there you go, let me try that. And so I applied, and that's how it really started.
Okay, and I'm going to ask you, did you like pat yourself on the back? I mean, because usually when people ask me, well, how do you get on TEDx? I said, well, get you a blank wall, because you're going to have to take all your rejection notices and paper the wall with it, because you're going to get it. But you applied to one and got it.
I was very fortunate that way, Glenn. I'll be honest with you. I applied. I applied. I auditioned. I went past that level. I continued. I became a finalist, and then I presented on the stage. So call it being blessed. Call it being fortunate. Something was definitely working in my favor. I will say that the TEDx was supposed to happen at the beginning of 2020.
Oh.
So what happened was, it wasn't released until August of 2020. So that whole time we were continuing to work on the speech. We didn't know if TEDx would happen. We didn't know what was going on, right?
Right.
Pandemic times. So that was the only adversity. But from a auditioning piece, hey, I was just fortunate.
Yeah, you were. So make sure you do that. Give yourself a good pat on the back. You mentioned this early, and so I always like to kind of get the backstory a little bit, but I want to now dive a little bit into the TEDx talk itself. And you mentioned this a little bit earlier when you're talking about what's unique, that hiring people is a huge thing at stake here. And you mentioned that in your TEDx. Tell us a little bit more about what you mean, the stakes to hiring the right person is huge.
So let's go back to the TEDx process. So when I was going through the TEDx process, there was they give you feedback on the talk. And one of the feedbacks that I received was, make the talk more applicable to the public. In other words, my talk was specifically on how to hire someone. So that's seemingly a small audience, right, of hiring managers.
Yeah.
And they said, no, turn it around, make it more applicable to people who are getting jobs. Hey, how do you get a job? And I said, no, I wanted to focus on the people doing the hiring, because those are the people that affect the masses, right? If I talk to the masses, I'm pretty much speaking to the choir. Everybody knows, kind of dress up a little bit, squeak up your resume, trim your nails, whatever you have to do to get in there, right? But I wanted to talk to the people who, in some cases, are making the lives of people not happy. And what do I mean by that is, we have an old way of leadership. There's a thought process that, it's a very top-down leadership. I'm going to get this thing done. But what I think people miss when they have that kind of top-down leadership and they don't look at the person they're leading, is that these people have families. They've got husbands, they've got wives, they've got children, they've got grandchildren. And if you really want to be a great leader, you need to look at the person and find what motivates them. What is it about them that they like to do? Is it this job? Great. If it's this job, hire them. If it's not, don't hire them. You want to find the thing that motivates that person, and you'll get the best out of that person. And that person will then go home and have a great have a great home life. I think the stakes are huge because we've got, if you take the United States, we've got, I think, 150, almost 200 million people in the workforce, but you go farther and you go globally, we've got billions of people in the workforce. And what effect are managers having on these billions of people? If they're hiring people into the wrong positions, we've got billions of miserable people. That's no way to live a life. You can't go around living a miserable life. So the onus to me is on hiring managers. If you're in a leadership position, we've got to do better. We've got to do a lot better.
Got to do a lot better. You kind of laid that out because you said, okay, I'm not going to speak to the person who's looking for the job because there's books like 1,000 interview questions how to answer those. So they can get that wired. And then though, I'm just going to say this, my own little commercial. This is what this podcast is about. This channel is about. Our publication company is about. It's the leaders that are making the difference. It's the leaders that are sending people back home feeling good or feeling bad, having a good family life. It's the leaders in the organization. So I applaud you for saying, okay, hey guys, I'm going to give this TEDx talk, but I'm not going to change it and try to make it something that I don't mean it to do. So I think that takes a lot of guts. Yeah.
And Glenn, to your point, focusing on leadership, why do you want to be a leader? Why do people actually go into that? Is it we go into that because we want the title? Is it because we think this is something we think we should do? Leadership has burdens associated with it. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. We've got all these sayings out here, with great power comes great responsibility. But if you really think about it, it's true. If you're a leader and you're in that position for a selfish reason, you may get short-term great results because of some kind of management style. But if you don't actually want to lead people, care about what motivates them, care about the product or industry you're in, long-term results just aren't going to be there. You can only lead by fear for so long.
Well, and that's why it stuck out. And that's why I made a bottom third. You're saying it's more than the position. It's more than the title. To be a pretty good leader, you also got to know how to hire people, but it also sounds like you're saying you got to know how to help people be better people, help your employees be better employees.
That's really it. And sometimes a part of leadership is, you get into a role and you assess the people on your team. And one of the things about leadership is identifying maybe this isn't the role for them. Not saying you're going to get rid of them, but if you're looking at someone and maybe they're unhappy, maybe their performance is suffering, maybe this just isn't the right role. We need to rotate you to a different department, a different sector, a different industry, or maybe we need to get you out of here, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to help you be a better person. Leadership to me is more, yes, we work for companies. We have to hit the bottom line. That's what we're there to do. But if you want sustained long-term results, the best leaders, and if everybody listening to this thinks about who their best managers were, who their best leaders were, it's that person that spent some extra time with them, talked to them about work, talked to them about their life, and really got to know them and motivate them. That's what we associate with great leaders. And I just think we need more of that out there.
I would tend to agree with you. I want to ask you, because you mentioned this as well. When you are out doing your talks, so you do a lot of speeches and talks with a lot of different companies about this, correct? Is that kind of what you do?
Right, correct.
So when you're out and about working with people, well, two-pronged question. Are people hiring people that don't think like them or not like them? Do you think that's out there?
It's a loaded question, Glenn. I'll say this. People generally associate with people that are like them. People generally go to places with people like them. So if you can look at this through zip code data now, right? So if you take a look at zip codes, people who live in zip codes generally have done the same thing. Maybe they didn't all go to the same college, but they all went to college. They all maybe got secondary degrees. They're all families. So zip codes are key indicators of like things. Right. Same thing during an interview. if I'm interviewing with you, Glenn, and I don't know your musical selection, but let's say that you happen to be a fan of Sam Cooke, and I just happen to talk to you about how I love Sam Cooke. We at that level can really connect on something beyond work. Now I'm here to interview with you, but we're talking about Sam Cooke, and you come out of that interview going, that guy, he's a really good guy.
Yep.
It's something about him. I don't know what it is, but it's something about him. And that happens, but it happens in different ways. If I like Blink 182 and you like Blink 182, then maybe we are connected someplace. But if I come into the interview and you don't assess me on my skills, and I happen to not know what Blink 182 is, then maybe I don't get the role.
It becomes more difficult for you to go to someone who doesn't know who Sam Cooke is. In fact, I'm surprised somebody your age even knows the name Sam Cooke, to be honest. I can see where, so it's a loaded question because you don't really want to say it, but I'll say it because I know in my experience before I started working in this publishing company so much, when I'm speaking, a lot of managers, and you look around, you can see that a lot of people are hiring people just like themselves. And because they like themselves, well, they want to like themselves, so they look for someone like them, and they think that person can do the job. I think that is an issue, but I think it goes really much deeper than that, in the job area.
So in the talk, I talk about ways to get around that. And so what we found, I didn't find this, but what studies have found is that more diverse workplaces do better. So let's say that you didn't even believe in a diverse or inclusive or equitable environment. Let's just say that wasn't your shtick, you didn't like it. If you're a numbers person, the bottom line says that more diverse workplaces actually are more profitable. So that means the bottom line is better, increases shareholder value. So that's a business case for diversity. But a way to actually figure out who the right person for the job is to, during the interview process, let's see what you can do. Well, can you do this? Is this the kind of work you can do? Let's not just talk about, well, tell me about a time where you did X. No, let me see it. And I give the example of Berry Gordy. See, Glenn, I like music, so okay. I can go back to the 1920s Satchmo. I can come all the way up
all the way through it.
Okay. I can go all the way, but I'm a big fan. But Berry Gordy just didn't bring Michael and his brothers into Motown sight unseen. We've all seen that, or at least a portion of us have seen that black and white footage of Michael as a kid dancing. That's an audition. He's auditioning for Berry Gordy. So why not do the same for people coming into your company?
And you have to wonder, why not do the same? I mean, the way that you talked about the process, having that person audition for that. I mean, like you said in your TEDx, he didn't just go out and get these 5 brethren and say, I'm gonna make you, he made them audition. He put them through the ringers. He made them, show what they could do before they signed the contract. Why don't more companies do that? But I would like for you to talk about that process that you see, because I think you had one brilliant thing that you said inside of your TEDx about the process. So share the process you think is necessary to make great leaders better.
So, the process, it'll start with kind of that initial phone screen. So the recruiter has the initial phone screen. Once we come to a slate of candidates, let's call them, we're down to our last 3 candidates for X job, okay? And a lot of people say, well, Andrew, you're only talking about higher level roles. You gave an example of a spreadsheet. Well, let me give you another example. Let's say I'm a customer service facility, and I'm looking to bring on customer service professionals. And all I do is talk to them on the phone. I have no idea how they deal with challenging situations. I have no idea how they deal with angry customers. What if I put a simulation in place? They come into the office or virtually, and there's a conversation with someone who's angry. What you're able to see and understand is how does that candidate deal with these situations? What are they doing when things get rough? You can actually see their thought process, see how they deal with challenging situations instead of guessing. I think it's a view into what the candidate's going to do, because during the interview process, a lot of people say it's the best you'll see of the candidate. I'm not sure that that's necessarily the case, but I think they're nervous, they're under pressure, so that's one element, and then you're adding another level of pressure. You can really see who they are.
I will share a quick story that I found interesting and kind of backs up what you're saying. Southwest Airlines used to, in their hiring process, do group interviews, and they told each person you need to come in and spend 30 seconds to a minute telling us about yourself and why you want to work here. So they'd go around the table. They did not care what that person was saying. What they cared about is whether everybody else had empathy. And if you were looking away and not paying attention to what that other person was saying, maybe practicing what you're saying, you got X right there. You didn't get the next step. But if you kind of engage with that person,
Yep.
so that's what it takes for an airline. I think that's great. I think that's what you're teaching. Tell me, side note, tell me a little bit about your customizing your keynotes. Do you do keynotes for associations and things like that, or do you do training programs?
So both,
Both.
really, but generally just speeches, trying to get the word out to organizations, to let them know what's going on. If anyone's interested, they can reach out to me on Instagram, andrewl.lee, andrewl.lee. But reaching out, and I really want to kind of evangelize the word. Yes, you can also reach out to me on LinkedIn as well. I want to get the word out, that companies can hire better, that we can do things. We can just do things better in a better way.
I agree with you. We want to have good employees. First things, hire right. I want to come back to something though, because I found this interesting. Again, I just saw my note there. That survey, the Gartner survey.
Yeah.
Tell us about that 87%.
It is, and so I'm not going to call myself a data person. Some people are like data people, they live in the numbers. I'm not necessarily a data person. I like to use data to back up points. And so as I was constructing this speech, I said, you know what, let me understand, what are people satisfied in their jobs? Because frankly, if they are satisfied, then there's probably no point for this. There's probably no point in me talking, right?
Yeah, right.
So I ran across the Gartner survey, and it said basically that 87% of people working are dissatisfied. And it goes back to what the stakes are. I mean, if you sit back and think about that for a second, these are people that, back in the old days, you would go to the coffee room and you grab a coffee with, or you talk about the game on Monday morning. They're not very happy. So then it got me thinking about that group. But then I think also something more interesting, and I think at a later time I want to take a look at this. What's going on with the other people? Why are they so happy? How can we have this gap? How can we have this gap of people who are extremely happy, and then we've got 87% of the people who are not happy? So that's probably one of the things I want to do in the future, is take a look at why that's the case. But 87%, it's a lot of folks, and it's you feel it. And you know how you feel it? You feel it because on Saturday morning or Thursday evening, you get a call from your friend, and they're probably complaining about their job and what's going on and what's happening here and the things that are happening. We all feel it, but we just think it's a call from Susie. Oh, it's a call from Johnny. No, it's a call about their unhappiness at a place where 87% of people are unhappy.
What the reason why this is so huge, because you can fix this, if I'm following you correctly, in the hiring process. Because right now we're talking about roughly a little bit more than 1 out of every 10 employees you have, only one of them is happy, the rest of them are not. One of them is, but you fix that through the hiring process, and it'll take some time, but there's other ways you can fix it inside. But the hiring process, that's what it comes down to. Talk to me just a little bit about this idea that you had of a couple of days before the interview, giving that person a problem and saying, bring me your results.
Right. So you're exactly right. A lot of this can be fixed in the hiring process. I do think that there is probably also going to have to be some development at the manager level, some kind of training, because managers need to have their foot, they need to have skin in the game. I'm going to get to the problem one second, but I just want to make one note. The way in which we hire managers is interesting. So generally, in the corporate setting, if you are a fantastic individual contributor, you are then put in management. We don't really assess whether or not, as an individual contributor, you have the skills needed to lead people. So a lot of the times in these organizations, we've got great workers who don't know the first thing about people. And management is about people and not necessarily your expertise at doing something. Two totally different things.
It is. If you do a good job on what you're doing, you get promoted.
That's right.
Without having any kind of training.
Right. I mean, like using sports as an analogy. Phil Jackson played for the Knicks. Was he Michael Jordan? No. Bill Belichick played football. Was he Lawrence Taylor? No. They played the game. They would never be the greatest at that, but what they're very good at is the management of people. So I think it's going to take, from a development perspective, us to really assess and understand what traits we need as a manager, because it might actually be that person who does a C-level job, B-level job right now as an individual contributor, but man, can they lead people? Can they take the company to the next level? So I think companies need to look at that. Okay, I'll get back to your question. Sorry for going off on a tangent.
No, that's good, because I'm going to go off it a little bit more. I think you're kind of saying a leader must be able to help his people to grow and get better. A leader takes vision to be a leader, and it takes you being able to share that vision with other people. It's easier if you hire right in the first place, though.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. So
Absolutely.
You coached me on that. I think I got that kind of good. Okay. So, on to your process.
Yes. So, I think interviewing should simulate the workplace. So a lot of times we go into work, or maybe the night before, we're introduced with a problem, and we only have 24 to 48 hours to really figure it out before we are then asked to diagnose the problem, present out on the problem, figure it out. So what I said in the interview is, let's say you set an interview date for, July the 12th. Okay. Well, on July the 13th, on July the 11th or July the 10th, send the candidate a scenario. So if you're hiring for an accountant, let's say, send the candidate a spreadsheet that something's wrong in there. And the spreadsheet is telling you a story, right? And what you want the accountant to do is figure out what's going on in this cash statement, what's going on in the balance sheet, explain that to me in a presentation. So then you also let the person know that, hey, you're going to have X amount of time to present to the group. You're going to tell us what the problem is. You're going to diagnose the problem, and you're going to tell us what the solution is. And so that happens. And then people are able to then ask questions, the interview group. But what you also do after that is, while the candidate is there, you bring in the candidates on site. Now the candidate's like, whew, I did that. I had there. Oh man, everything is good. No, you then go in and you say, Oh, sorry, Glenn. Something just happened. Here's an urgent problem, and we need you to figure this out. Okay, we're going to need you to present this out to us in 10 minutes. Okay, the interview team's in there. What? Who does that? This guy or female spent the whole night practicing this project, and now you're giving them something that they have to present out again on in 10 minutes. Now, what are you looking for? You're looking for in the first presentation, thought out process. You're looking for diagnosis of a problem and ability to present, because communication is key. We have to communicate.
Right,
the second thing you're looking for is poise under fire. You know that they're probably not going to be able to understand everything that's going on, but how do they react? What are they going to say? Because this happens every day. Every day problems arise. How are you going to comport yourself? Are you going to, oh my gosh, I don't know what's happening here. Oh, okay. No, that's not happening. We need answers. So
you can put that in every line of business, right? Every line. I mean, if you're doing customer service, you can send them things. Okay, we had a customer service issue. How would you handle this? Please prepare to present that out to us. They get there and say, sales. Yeah, every line. I'm thinking like that's powerful for customer service, sales, for everybody. I mean, they get there, they got their solution, they're ready to present it. They say, well, you know what though? Or I'm thinking customer service, have them deal with a problem right then and there. Go talk to that customer real fast for me. I can't get to it. I got to get this ready. Go talk to that customer and settle them down and see what they do.
Absolutely.
And this is an employee of yours, but they don't know it. So, yeah.
That's right. Because see, what we're trying to get to is if we were to have the interview that focused specifically on tell me about a time. Tell me about a time when this happened. Well, one, I'm stuck to evaluate you on A, your ability to tell the story. B, I don't know if the story ever happened. How do I know that? This is something I hope you're telling the truth. I hope you're a truthful person. But the method that we're using here is really a method where I can see. I don't necessarily need to depend on your ability to tell me a story. I want to be able to observe your behavior. And I think that works out for both interests, for the employer and you know what, someone like me, I'm like, I can show you what I can do. Let's go.
Yeah. I'm not worried about it. Now, was it you that was, I'm a little bit confused, but you were talking about this idea of, no, it wasn't you, role playing. But that's pretty much what you're talking about here.
Yes. That's really it. That's really, and people get uncomfortable with that, but I mean, we do it all the time in real life, every day.
Yeah. Tell me about your barbershop hiring process.
Oh man, Edwards Barbershop in Charlotte, North Carolina on Beatty's Ford Road was probably one of the best experiences that I've had in my entire life. When I had hair, I used to have hair, by the way. I used to have nice waves, the whole 9 yards. But I started losing my hair in high school, but that's another point. My dad, every other week, we would go to the barbershop. And it was an event because you're going to be there for a while. So It was generally in the summertime, we'd get up early, we'd go to the barbershop, and then afterwards we'd wash the car. So we get to the barbershop, and it's like something out of a movie. They've dramatized these scenes now. But back then it was just what it was, you'd have
just kind of the way it is.
Barbers, people arguing in the corner. You've got, some guy coming in trying to sell something to everybody. They're talking about, they're arguing about who's the best basketball team, who's the best singing group. In Charlotte, it's, Jodeci. Jodeci was better than, whoever else. So all this going on, and I would be there listening, but I'd also be reading the newspaper. Sports section was never available. So, the business section. All right, so I'm reading the business section. And one day, Mr. Edwards, the owner of the barbershop, comes to me and says, "Hey, boy, you looking for a job?" I was like, sure. And he goes, "You want to come in here and sweep the barbershop?" I said, I looked at my dad, and he was like, "Okay." I said, "Sure." And I had just bought me a $300 white 1988 Ford Taurus.
Oh, okay.
The
300 bucks.
thing I've spent 300, my whole savings at the time, $300. It was a great car. It would kind of cut off at the light, but I didn't care. So it was great. So I could get back and forth from home to the barbershop. And going into that barbershop every day there were life lessons there. I learned a lot about how to be honest, some things to do and some things not to do, maybe. But that taught me that observing someone and their behavior, they saw me every day or every other week for years come in that barbershop. They saw that I was with my dad. They saw if he sent me to the store, I would bring some change back. Then they started saying, "Hey, you know what? Go run this little errand for me."
Yeah.
And I'd run an errand for them, and I'd bring them back the exact change. And they kind of go back, "This is my exact change," because other young men who did that maybe pocketed a dollar or two, you know, and the trust. And now by this time on Saturday, I get in. Now I have to go to this place to get everybody's breakfast. And now I'm doing this, and I'm slowly gaining their trust, right? All right, boy, yeah, go out there and do this. And by the way, get this out of my car, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And that's how they hired me, because they observed me, they saw what I could do, and ended up being one of the best things. Something I didn't put in the TED Talk was when I graduated from high school. And you got to think, these are men who make their money cutting hair.
Right.
Like if they're not cutting hair, they're not making money.
Right.
I graduated on a Friday, and as you probably know, on Friday is a hot day in the barbershop. I mean,
it is.
People are in there. They got to get that weekend haircut because they're going someplace to do something.
Yep.
They shut the barbershop down, and they came over to my house because we had a little get together for me graduating, and they gave me a little card, and they shut down their barbershop to come over there. And that meant the world to me because I knew what it meant. They were losing out on some money.
Yeah, on a Friday night. Yeah.
Yeah. So great guys, miss them a lot.
I got to tell you though, I took two things away from the story, and the reason why I did it after you telling me your process is that your crew at the barbershop, they actually were role playing with you all your life. Go to the store, get this. Go and see, so now, let's see how does he handle this problem. Brought back all my change. So they were role playing with you.
They were doing it. Yes. They were doing the process in the barbershop. Yes. And I didn't even know it until later. Like I didn't put it together until later, but they were doing this process back then.
Yeah, and so it made the hiring process a lot better because when it came to you being there and getting the floors clean and closing everything up and getting it all ready for the next day, they knew they could rely on you because you had a longer role playing process than what you would get in corporate America, but you still had that process, and that's important. But here's a second lesson I took from this: when you said that you couldn't find the sports page because everybody else had that sports page, you started reading the business page. Didn't you say one of the owners said, and that boy's over there reading the business page?
Yeah, Mr. Edwards. He's like, that boy over there is even reading the business section. Yeah, I mean,
he didn't care that you weren't like him. Right. He saw some diversity there. He says, okay, wait a minute, he's not like me, but that means if he's reading the business paper, he's thinking, I mean, he probably didn't think it a lot through like this, but he's over there reading the business paper. That man knows how to run business, take care of business. And that's the type of person I want in my business. I want to know what's going on in sports. I can argue with Joe Blow over here about the Dallas Cowboys and the Charlotte Hornets. What do you guys have down there?
Right.
All that stuff. But he was able to recognize there's a difference, and I need that. He
wanted diversity of thought. He wanted, and I, he's since passed, but I wish I could talk to him about, what did I help bring to you guys? Because I know what I took from them. But when you bring the diversity of thought, of background, of culture, of experience to your organization, you're helping them grow. And a lot of times there's resistance to something that's new, that's foreign. but it actually helps everyone in the organization, because maybe I didn't think of it this way. And this is the idea that's going to get us to where we've been trying to go.
Perfect. That's, and you see why I believe this format's necessary, because there's no way you're going to get that out in 18 minutes. You can get the ideal out, okay, but there's no way you can get that out in 18 minutes. I think it's powerful that people start to understand, how to write in the first place. Okay,
Right.
so that's good for that. I want to ask you though a question, maybe a little bit personal in nature though. How did doing the TEDx affect you personally or your business or your business? How did doing that affect you?
It's an interesting question. I think it's made me more as a person. It's made me more confident to really express these opinions. I think that I've never been shy about speaking, but I feel that I have more strength in my voice when it comes to being able to talk about leadership. I didn't go to school for leadership or human resources. These are life experiences lived. I've got the scars to prove it. And I think along the way, going through the TEDx talk has really helped me find my voice, to help myself and others. I started the Instagram channel after the TEDx talk, so it's a recently new one, so that people could hear these kinds of things, so that people could understand it. And so I think it's just, I'm just growing in confidence in being able to tackle the issues that I think are affecting millions, if not billions of people, revolving management.
That's making a big effect. That's I got to give you credit. That makes a huge effect. Same kind of question though. What are you doing now to help others? How are you making a difference? So you kind of got into that a little bit more, but I want you to go a little bit deeper into how you're making a difference. You may want to talk about your keynotes a little bit, or may want to talk about your group trainings. But how are you making a difference? Give us a little bit more information there.
Yeah, so again, you can reach out to me on Instagram, andrewl.lee, Lee, on Instagram, or you can touch base with me on LinkedIn. But a lot of the things that I'm involved in now, they've really been they've been all over the board. So I've done a lot to help younger folks. I have volunteered my time to try to get this message out early and earlier to younger people, about the need to build their brand, about the need to be in leadership positions. I've been able to meet with leaders of various organizations and speak to them about the need to change their processes, working with companies to really help them fine tune their leadership development, to fine tune their hiring processes. And frankly, being able to speak with people like you, Glenn, and getting the message out is really helping. I think what is making a difference is if I can, through your podcast, reach someone, a manager, an aspiring manager, an old curmudgeon manager, and they hear they hear this and they go, let me think if I can do something different. I think that's really where it's at. And obviously, like I said, please feel free to reach out to me. Please take a look at the TED Talk. I'd like to have an ongoing conversation with everyone, but that's really it. I think I need to just continue to get the message out about what it is we're doing.
Very, very, very good. I like everything you're saying there. I do have a closing question, just to be respectful of everyone's time and your time. But it's a hard closing question.
Uh-oh.
This is a hard one.
Uh-oh.
And I used to, maybe I did prepare you for this. I used to try to prepare people for this, and now just make it hard. So here's a question. What question should I have asked you that I didn't?
You didn't prepare me for that one. That's okay.
That's good. And I'm not going to prepare anybody else in the future. I decided that.
I think it's good. You're putting me on the spot now. So now you're doing it in reverse. You're putting me on the spot here.
Yeah, because I'm deciding I'm going to hire you, right? No.
What questions should you have asked me? You know, I think one of them is, what if I'm a manager
Mm-hmm.
and I want to do right? How do I start? What do I do? So, you know, for that, I would say a couple of things. The first thing, if you're a manager out there and you're listening to us and you're saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm really screwing this thing up. I need to change and alter how we're doing it." First thing I would say is take a look at the TED Talk. And I think the first time you listen to the TED Talk, you are going to you'll get the humor. I try to put some humor in there, and you'll get the stories.
Yeah.
But I think if you listen to it again, you'll really get a lot of the central messages that are coming through, and you can really understand that hiring piece. The second thing I would say is, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to engage in a conversation with you on that. So yeah, that's what I would do. I think the question would be, where do I start? What do I do?
Yeah.
Listen to the TED Talk.
And that's good information. Listen to the TED Talk and then reach out for help.
Yep.
Reach out for help. Mr. Lee, thank you very, very much for your time. I think we got a lot of good information from you. Probably some more we could do in another sometime in the future. But there is hiring right in the first place. Like you said, hiring the rock stars, that's so essential. I thank you for sharing your depth of knowledge with us.
Thank you, Glenn. It was great to be here.
Thank you for connecting with us here at Touchstone Publishers. Please join our group Essential Leadership Skills and share your leadership knowledge with us all.